our community conversations. I'm Violet Haldane with the West Indian Foundation, and today we have a special guest, State Rep Matt Ritter, who's also the majority leader. And before we begin, I'm just going to ask people to briefly introduce themselves so we have an idea as to who's on their phone and their interest in this conversation. So I'm just going to go by the names that I see. I'll start off with Mr. Hall.
Yes, I'm State Representative Joshua Hall, the 7th District here in Hartford.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Egbisi, Mr. OG, are you there? Okay. I see someone on an iPhone, but I do not know who it is.
Francis O'Kenzie is on an iPhone.
Okay, okay, Francis, could you please repeat that?
Francis O'Kenzie, and I have a catering liquor permit.
You are a what of a liquor permit?
I have a catering liquor permit.
Okay, thank you. There's another iPhone, 982-9143.
Sid Shulman.
It's Wayne Benjamin, not an iPhone. And of course, I'm with Georgetown Associates and we're working on the diner.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Phyllis Airy?
Oh, let me go to your mic.
Yeah, I'm on the call, West Indian Social Club member.
Okay, thank you. Antonio Texador?
Antonio Texador, new member of the West Indian Social Club.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Fiona Vernal?
Fiona Vernal, West Indian Social Club member.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Joe Luska?
Sure. My name is Joe Luchka. I'm president of the Ukrainian National Home on Weathersfield Avenue in Hartford.
Okay, thank you. Welcome. It says J. Rose Dunkley?
Janet Dunkley, member of the West Indian Social Club.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Shirley Surgeon?
Hello. Hi, good evening, everyone.
Okay. Wayne Stapleton?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Wayne Stapleton, the Vice President of the Bradley Connection BNI chapter in Windsor Locks.
Okay, thank you. This says Hope Miano.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Joe Miano. I'm the treasurer for the Kanika Society, 500 Avenue in Hartford, an Italian social club, about 100 members.
Hey, I'm sorry, could you repeat that? Speak a little louder. I didn't get everything you said.
Let's see if I can increase my volume here. My name is Joe Miano. I am the treasurer for the Kanika Society. It's an Italian social club at 500 Franklin Avenue in the south end of Hartford. And probably about 500 members. 100 members. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Miss Blair, the Progressive League.
Yes, President Caswell Sewell, along with my secretary, Miss Jacqueline Blair.
Okay.
Jamaica Progressive League.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Shulman, did we get you? Introduction?
This is a change in our liquor license.
Council for the West Indian Social Club and West Indian Foundation and West Indian Independence.
Okay, thank you. Beverly Red?
Yes, this is Beverly Red. I serve as the secretary of the West Indian Social Club.
Okay, thank you. And I think Miss Veronica Airy has joined.
Hello, Veronica Airy Wilson, past president, the West Indian Social Club.
Okay, thank you. I think everyone on the call has identified themselves. I'd like to welcome State Rep Ritter. We appreciate you coming to talk to us today. We initially sent a letter to you in regards to the club license being changed to a cafe, but I think a lot of that has been resolved. Someone just joined us, and it is Errol Smith. Errol, can you introduce yourself? Errol, is your, okay. Okay, we will come back to that. So, Mr. Ritter, we would like to thank you for all you have done in response to our letter. And until Mr. Errol can come on the phone, is there anything as we start that you just like to say to the group and open it before we start our conversation in regards to the business at hand?
Sure, and thanks for having me and Representative Hall. And if 2 kids or a dog come in the background, I apologize. We're going to try to keep them out here, but it is bedtime, so you never know who may appear.
That's okay.
Thank you, Councilwoman Surgeon, for putting this together. Thank you, Shirley. Josh and I know the other members of the delegation got some concerns about this, so we will try to answer any questions you have. I will say that a lot of the changes going into effect on November 1st, and we're aware of that. We are going to be in special session both in July and September. So anything that we can work on in September will avoid anything going into effect before it impacts you. So we kind of want to hear what's worked well, what we can work on and what we can fix, and then we'll go to work and do our job. But I know in the legislature, this not-for-profit permit fee is getting a lot of attention from across the state. So we're not alone in the greater Hartford region either. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Yeah. Errol, can you speak now?
Yes, I can, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Errol Smith, who's president of the West Indian Social Club, and he's just going to give you the perspective of some of the organizations in regards to this.
Great.
Errol?
My name's
Smith,
Errol.
how are you, sir?
I'm doing good. I hope you're doing well as well. I'm the chairperson of West Indian Social Club. So we started holding this community meetings a few weeks ago to address some of the issues that we all have in common. And there's issues, but the main one we're going to discuss tonight was the one that pertains to the switch from the club permit to the cafe permit. And so we had came up with a bunch of questions that we sent to you, but you came back with a response that addressed the vast majority of the issues that we have. And you had mentioned that in the special session that you're going to be having later on this month. The main thing was just the fees, the switching fees to 2,000. That makes it very cost prohibitive for us to operate. And the other thing was just the food requirements that each club was supposed to have. But your response was something that we looked forward to. And one of the things we want to ask is how confident you are that the proposed initiatives will be accepted by the legislator, because I mean that's one of the keys to our survival.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead. No, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, so the big one is the fee going from $815 to $2,000, and let me say that some of the changes that were made were meant to increase revenue for folks with this kind of permit, right? The ability to sell more alcohol, the ability to sell off premises, beer containers, again, the change of the gross receipt stuff. So the thought, and the ability to serve food, right, and offer menus. The thought by some legislators in this committee was we were increasing revenue, but obviously the jump for a nonprofit from $815 to $2,000 is what's caused a lot of consternation. I'm pretty confident. I mean, look, my role is pretty high up there, so I can't say that they can run a bill without me, but it'd probably be pretty hard. And the whole Hartford delegation being united when there's 8 of us, we got a big presence up there. So, and again, I've heard this from suburban, rural, folks have different societies and clubs across the state. So I'm very, very confident. And again, the fee is due November 1, that we will have a law passed sometime in September that will put you back at $815 where you've been since 2009.
Okay, all right.
All right. And I might need some help, yelling at some people up there, but I know I got a good group behind me if we need to do that. But I think we'll be okay.
Okay, all right. I mean, that was our major concerns, because a bunch of us, not only us, but I'm sure other small nonprofit would have a very difficult time in meeting the requirements. So that we appreciate. One of the things that, on another note, that we had talked about, the fact that all of us are impacted, not just the social club, but businesses as a whole are impacted. And one of the things that we're looking at, all the organizations are closed right now. We have, since March, we have not generated any revenues. We all have tax liability, and we realize that there's a state statute that requires an 18% surcharge on the taxes. I'm not quite sure. For the period that we're out of business, is there any way that 18% could be suspended for that period? For the fact that we just cannot generate any revenues to pay the sales tax, and that's a different issue, but that's one of the concerns that we had.
Mr. Smith, the 18% surcharge, you referring to late property taxes?
Property taxes, right.
So the state did pass an executive order. Now it's up to every individual city. So in Hartford, for example, you can apply for a tax deferment until October 1st. So you can apply for a 3-month delay. There was also an executive order that allowed municipalities to keep the interest rate for late taxes at, I believe, 3% per annum. So instead of the 1.5% per month, it's only going to be 3%. So Shirley, this is probably more up your alley, what the city did, but the state gave municipalities the ability to work out property taxes. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's something to apply for. It's not automatic. It's something we'd have to apply to the city to get that reprieve, right?
Yes, you do.
Okay, cool. All right, thanks.
And Shirley, someone told me the city had a July 1 deadline, but I think that's like normal property taxes, whereby they say July 1, but you have a 30-day grace period.
Right.
You may just want to check with City Hall that they are telling folks July 1, but I think they're going to accept applications as late as July 31st, I would assume.
I will check and get back to the organization.
Great. Thanks, Shirley.
Thank you.
And by the way, the state forced municipalities to do one program or the other. They have to either defer or provide the lower interest rate. It was not optional for them.
Okay.
Okay. State Rep, is there anything that we as a group can do to help support you as you go through trying to get the fees lowered and all the other actions in regard to the Café license?
So don't take this as me not looking or wanting help, but I will tell you, I think we have it under control. The voices have been heard loud and clear. You guys did a great job. You got in touch with everybody from Hartford and Bloomfield and Windsor, and we're all aware of it. And like I said, the chairman of the committee from the House from Hamden, he's heard it from everybody, VFWs, all kinds of groups across the state. So, normally when, if it's one of those things where it's more localized, we have to be a little louder and really explain it. This is pretty statewide in terms of its concern and reach. So I'm pretty confident. I will let you know if I feel like we're falling short, but I'm pretty confident we'll be okay.
Okay. Thank you.
I think I even know the bill we're going to put it in. So that's how far along we've thought about it.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Caswell, is there something you would like to address?
Yes, I would just like to say good evening, everyone. Represented Ritter, All, and Councilwoman Surgeon, and others. I appreciate your attendance this evening. For over 70 years, beginning with the West Indian Social Club, the various West Indian, Caribbean, European organizations have existed in various cities and towns in Connecticut. These different diasporas has created a bond in their community by providing cultural, financial, health, and social needs. We have over these years provided scholarship for needy students graduating from high schools going to college, fed the homeless, shut-ins, clothed the clothesless, provided financial assistance for families in need, provided and helped newcomers to the U.S. with information on school, housing, jobs, referral, and socially we have provided entertainment in various forms for our communities. COVID-19 has changed all of that. Due to the worldwide pandemic, this year we have been unable to provide any of these services because of the financial impact. For the past 3 months since we were ordered closed by the state, there has been no income. Our organizations have struggled to even do the basic things as maintaining our utilities. Thanks to the state for asking the various companies to allow us to use their services until we're able to operate. We thought we would be able to open July 17th, as stated by the governor, but now this date has been pushed back. We're in a limbo. For the first time in these 70 years, we're faced with a hard fact that some of our organization may never operate or open their doors again, socially, nonprofit, or otherwise. And that's painful. And as the community service, we do not expect the state to give us a handout, but a hand up. We need help. I consider COVID-19 a major disaster. Every disaster in the country, the communities that are affected are given financial support and resources to rebuild. Where are ours? Thanks for accepting our invitation. We really appreciate it. And we know with your leadership and others, we'll be able to get through, hopefully. At the end of the tunnel, we'll see light, and maybe it won't be as bad as we thought. I just want to thank all the other organizations, the other social organizations that are here tonight. And as I said, it's the West Indian, Caribbean, European organizations and all those that are impacted. We're all feeling the pain, and some of the issues have been addressed, so I won't even touch them. But we need to know what and if anything else can the state do to help us in this disaster. Thank you.
Yeah, it's well said. And obviously I'm on calls daily with both businesses and individuals that are feeling this, once in 100-year pandemic and what has happened. I can tell you for the state, the thing we're really hoping for most of all is help from Congress. The House passed another bill a few weeks ago that'll provide states with direct aid for lost revenue. And we're very hopeful that by August, Mr. McConnell, if he sees fit, may agree to let that bill be called in the Senate. To put it in perspective, right now in Connecticut, we will close the fiscal year with about a $600 million deficit. We'll all get plugged from the rainy day fund. But then after fiscal year 21, or this current fiscal year, we'd be running a deficit for a couple $2 billion in the out years. And that means not only are you out revenue, but your ability to help people is limited. And so that's something we would like to have the flexibility to do. The bill that passed the House in DC would give Connecticut about $5 or $6 billion. That would stabilize our finances for the next 2 years, assuming that's when this whole thing is over, hopefully sooner. Allow us to replenish the rainy day fund we had to draw upon, and I think give the business community and folks like yourself more predictability. It would allow us to invest more in our communities than we have been able to maybe in the past, and certainly could right now. So we're all there. I know Josh and Doug and Brandon and I and everybody are pulling in the same direction, and we really hope to have good news in a month. I talked to Congressman Larson this morning. He's used to my phone calls looking for updates, and he thinks we got a pretty good shot that Congress will come through, and it'll be a big help to the state of Connecticut.
Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Sewell?
No, that's all. The other issues with the Café license has been addressed already, so I don't see any need to go into it. The chairman did, and the response from Representative Ritter, we have gone through that before also.
Okay, thank you. Excuse me?
It was nice to see him, Mr. Sewell, again. So questions.
You're welcome, sir.
I am open the floor up to questions. Do you mind, Mr. Ritter?
No, not at all. And I know Brandon joined, and Representative McGee, and I know Representative Hall's on as well. So
Okay.
whatever you need, we're here.
Okay. Questions from the floor? Okay. Yes,
Hi.
Mr. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Hi, my name is Joe Lichka. I'm president of the Ukrainian National Home on Weathersfield Avenue. We've been there since 1965, social club, got about 350 active members, including some youth groups that are there every week. You have mentioned a couple times about some previous questions with regards to the cafe license and that those have been resolved. My apologies, we didn't get the invitations to any of these until this week. Can I either ask for a copy of that to be forwarded to us so that I can understand kind of what some of the other issues are? For us, primarily, it's a cost issue. We're small. We've got, like everybody else here, we're got a whole bunch of not-for-profits that depend on us for resources. We haven't been open since March either. Just want to understand what some of the other issues are as well. And if I can provide an email address at the end of this call, I'd be happy to do so, or take a few minutes and just see what those issues were. Thank you.
Okay. Are you going to respond, Mr. Ritter?
Joe, why don't you just email me tomorrow or tonight? I'll give you my email address and we'll take care of it.
Okay, that'd be great.
It's Matthew, MATTHEW, .Ritter, RITTER, at cga.ct.gov, G-O-V. Or if you Google it, it'll come up. And if you email me tomorrow, we'll get back to you right away.
I got it. Thank you. I'll send that out to you. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. No problem.
And if you put your email in the chat, we will also send you the documentation that we received from the state, and it really addressed also the issue regarding food. And the resolution for that was that if you had menus available where people could do takeout, where food could be delivered to your organization, you would not have to have like a kitchen and serve the food yourself. So that was one of the larger concerns, because a lot of the organizations did not have a commercial kitchen or the ability to provide food.
Ms. Alden, this is Beverly.
Yes.
Do you have access to the document that Representative Ritter sent out? And if so, could you quickly recap? Because there's a large number of individuals that didn't get it.
I can look for it if someone takes over facilitating the meeting.
Yeah, there were four main bullet points, if I recall. One was obviously the fee going from $815 to $2,000. We're going to address that. So that was the biggest concern, we think. The second one, right, Violet was right, it was the food. Folks were afraid you'd have to have prepared meals. Again, having menus where you can order takeout, or even, bar snacks or chips would suffice for the food category. It wasn't that broad and what it was meant to do. The other things that we pointed out in that email were things that made it easier for nonprofit permit fee, I'm getting the term wrong, nonprofit permits to make it easier. There were two main changes. You used to be restricted in how much of a percentage of your sales could come from liquor. It was no more than 15%. And that was increased so that you could sell, frankly, you could, that was a problem for some social clubs to try to balance that. That number was increased. The other thing that was increased, also you were allowed to serve alcohol outside. Many of you could not before. You can now put tables outside and serve liquor. And another change was you could sell containers or beer from the social club. So if you had a 6-pack in the refrigerator and you wanted to sell it, you could. Those were all changes you were unable to do. That was, I believe, everything in the email, I believe. But if there's additional questions, just let us know. And Brandon, Josh, and I can get those answers, no problem.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Mr. OG?
Greetings all. I think one of the questions that we had going along with the concept of wanting to have a hand up is what can we do as various organizations that have property, especially in underserved communities, that can help the state out, but at the same time kind of bridge the gap in some revenue that we're having and have had over the past few months. For example, I saw an RFP for some contact tracing that was sent out, and I think they're having a webinar here this week. So what kind of programs are out there like that, or where can we find a listing of programs like that that can help close a revenue gap for our organizations, but at the same time help achieve some of the goals that the state has?
I mean, all the state RFPs are listed on the DAS website, which is not a great answer because there's probably 1,000 RFPs a day. So the procurement side would not be my area of expertise, but I will, your point is well taken. And I know as we think about special session, we're thinking about economic investment and economic opportunity in our urban areas and our cities. So I'll take your comment into the feelings that we've all expressed as the Hartford delegation and agree. I just can't give you a concrete example today, but let me continue to work on that and maybe we can trade emails and stay in touch on it.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
John, Brandon, I don't know if you have anything to add on that.
Yeah.
Good question. So,
Mr. Hall or Mr. McGee? Joshua?
Not necessarily.
No, I think. Oh, go ahead, Josh.
No, so I was going to agree with Matt that there may be some possibilities out there. But I just want to go back quickly to one of the concerns that Caswell brought up. And I'm not sure if everyone took advantage of applying for PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program. That deadline has been extended through August 8th. And what I'm hearing from particularly DCD, that every business should apply for that money. From what I understand, there's still $180 billion out there. And so that may cover some of the costs that's impacting you guys right now. But also, the SBA has the availability of loans as well. So we recommend that everybody take advantage of these resources, because part of the challenge is if folks don't take advantage of the resources the next time around, they may not be as generous because people aren't taking advantage of them. So if you haven't applied for your PPP loan, which ultimately is a grant at the end of the day, we really recommend that you do that.
Thank you. Mr. McGee, did you have something to add?
Nope. I think Josh and Matt pretty much hit all of the important points, taking advantage of existing resources, but also doing a little bit more homework on the original question. And that was how could, many of the businesses be part of the overarching conversation, especially in areas that have been underserved and under-resourced.
And Shirley, Councilwoman Surgeon, remind me, the city has a program, I think, funded by the Hart Foundation for Public Giving that is giving grants to city nonprofits and small businesses. Is that correct?
Yes, we did. We have given out over 120 grants, less than 10,000 grants. Unfortunately, we had over 200 applications, and all we could have funded was 120. And these were actual true grants. The application information was very simple, and we just ran out of money. So, and again, there was a great program with the City of Hartford and the Hartford Foundation, which provided that grant assistance to the small businesses.
Thanks, Shirley.
Sure.
Thank you. Additional questions?
I have a question for you, if you don't mind. It's for Ritter. So once again, my name is Joe Miano. I'm from the Canigatene Society. It's an Italian social club over on Franklin Avenue. We've got about 100 members. Our liquor license went from $300 to $2,000. So obviously that, that's absurd. We definitely can't afford to pay that. So if it doesn't come back to the 300, we're just going to give the license back to the state, and then they'll lose that $300 on top of it. My question to you is, how did they come about from $300 to $2,000? Was there a public meeting set up through the at the Capitol there? Was this just something done through the liquor licenses department there, commission? How did they come up, from $300 to $2,000? I know they needed to raise money, but I need to raise money too in my business, but I can't do a 567% increase on my bottle of, water that we sell at the bar. That's ridiculous. So how does one come up with those prices or that rate schedule, if you may?
So I guess I have a question for you, but to answer your question, yeah, the bill had a public hearing. It was a public act. It was adopted unanimously in both chambers. So every Democrat and every Republican in the state of Connecticut voted for it. And the thought was it was taking away redundant permits and consistencies and trying to make it more consistent. And there was no question that after review of it, the nonprofit fee went up too high, particularly in light of COVID. I'm not aware of a $300 to $2,000. I'm aware of $815 to $2,000. So you'll have to email me how you went from $300 to $2,000. I'll have to understand what that permit is, because I know the permit's been $815 since 2009. So maybe I'm just not sure what that permit is, but I'll be glad to look into that for you.
Yeah, ours was a regular social club permit, and now they put us under the Café permit. So we were at 300, and now we're at 2,000.
All right.
One other question in the committee.
If you email me the question, I'll get an answer for you tomorrow. But I'm not aware of 300, but I will look into it. Sure.
And one other question. So in the public hearing, if there was a public hearing, did anyone come in to speak against going in that, or was there no one speaking in against, their fees going up that high?
I don't know. I do not. We could look back at the public testimony and pull it for you. But it did have a public hearing. It was a pretty big bill. It got a lot of attention. There was a lot of stuff in there about microbreweries and everything. It was a pretty big liquor bill.
Okay.
Thank you. Additional questions?
Yeah, I have a question. The programs like that's out there, I think most organizations, at least in the Caribbean community, has applied for them in terms of the HEDCO loans, the PPP. But one of the programs is the EDIL, which is the SBA program. Every time we try to apply for it, we've been getting conflicting information from SBA as to the portal. Does anyone on the panel knows how to access this money? Because this was money, I think it was $10,000 that the SBA, the federal government, was giving to organizations. And so that's one of the programs that we have not been able to access. So any information that we can get, I think that would not only helps, it would definitely help all the organizations involved in terms of getting access to that funds.
Aaron, what was the name of the particular program that you referenced?
EDIL. It was a part of when the PPP came out. The EDIL was one of the programs the SBA had. So we were able to access everything else. But I think OG could speak more on that, because he was the one that was involved in terms of applying for that program for us.
So just looking at, I just clicked on. I just put in the chat box the portal that you referenced, so everyone can take a look at the different resources. But I was looking at the EDIL, and that's EIDL. That's specifically for agricultural businesses. So maybe that's the issue why the different clubs aren't able to apply for it, because it's specifically for agricultural businesses.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
I have
Additional
a
questions?
question.
Okay.
The caterer's liquor permit, the fee was $440. Was that affected by this new rule or fee structure?
I don't know. But again, my email is in the chat at 8:25 p.m. And any individual questions that folks have, just give me exactly what you want. I'll get an answer within 48 hours. Okay?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. There's a lot, it's funny. The goal of this bill was exactly this. There was all kinds of permits at different fees. It was to streamline and make them more consistent, and then, kind of even out the powers and abilities. And they probably got a lot of it right, but clearly there were some errors. And so we're going to go back and fix them. That's all.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Yes, Mr. OG?
I have another question, and I guess this can be answered by either Mr. Ritter, Mr. Hall, or Mr. McGee. And when it comes to guess, making our voices heard, or at least legislation, is it more of the squeaky wheel gets the grease, or the nail that sticks out gets hammered down? Because it seems that a lot of times we might be a little late to the party when it comes to decisions. And I'm trying to figure out if that's just a feeling on our part as far as just lack of involvement or lack of knowledge when it comes to, I guess, how the sausage is made. So maybe you guys could give a little insight on maybe some other groups that you participating more, and maybe it has an influence.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take a stab at it. I think it's a little bit of both and all of the above with respect to the sausage, using your analogy, the sausage making process, and also the squeaky wheel getting all of the oil or the grease. And what was the nail analogy? That was the first time I heard that one. How does that one go?
The nail that sticks out gets hammered down. I think that's
Yes.
a Japanese.
Thank you. I like that. And again, I think it's all of the above. And it's a matter of doing what we're doing tonight. And I'm so excited about the opportunity to use Zoom because it's forced us to really kind of hone in on very specific asks and be very assertive in those asks. So I would recommend the following. Continue meeting with soon-to-be Speaker of the House, Matthew Ritter, Joshua Hall, who will probably be some major player in the state legislature, myself, and others, and making sure, and Shirley Surgeon, who is also very influential on the city level, making sure that we understand the agenda, not during session, but off session, so that when it's time for session, we're focusing on getting it through committee and public hearings, and making sure the very specific items that you all are lobbying are being heard and they're going through the proper channels. So yes, squeaky wheel gets the oil. The nail that's sticking out is going to be hit. And again, I think it's a matter of making sure that we're informed, your Hartford delegation, and we're able to push through during any given legislative session. But I'll defer to my other two colleagues, Matt and Josh. Maybe they have a different perspective on it.
I would echo the same sentiments. I mean, I think this is part of the process, but what's also important is as your groups come together, you have a very diverse group of social clubs. You know, the question going forward is, yeah, we're dealing with this issue of COVID and this issue of the liquor permit fee, but I'm sure there are a variety of other issues and concerns that your clubs face, and whether or not coming up with a legislative agenda, because it's not just what happens with the clubs in Hartford, but you also have members that are represent various jurisdictions or live in various jurisdictions across the state. So it's just very important for us to understand the specific needs of organizations and how we can be most helpful, not in emergency circumstances, but in normal circumstances in preparing if there is ever an emergency again. So just sharing those ideas, constantly staying in contact with us is very important. So yeah, I think that's helpful.
Thank you.
I have a quick question.
Okay. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Phyllis Airy. This is kind of piggybacking on the same subject, but from a different angle. I noticed that during specifically the COVID-19 issues, that a lot of times when funding was available, we heard about it late, right? Or we had a short window deadline. How can we, or what should we be looking moving forward, not only with COVID-19, but any assistance moving forward? What tools or what vehicle we should be looking at to keep up to date on what's available for our community and our organizations? Is there any suggestions? Because again, a lot of the grants and the funding, we heard about it late, or we missed the deadline, or we had a short window of time.
Yeah, I would say, one of the things in response to that because your concern was a concern of many, especially in the North Main Street area where the club, West Indian Social Club, is located, and Sportsman and several other businesses, they have the same sentiment. Like, it's late, you only giving us 2 days. And so one of the things that myself, Matt, and Josh brought to the attention of the governor's office, and especially DECD, where we have a really, really great supporter in that of Gwendolyn Thames, as the deputy there, we said, look, you all have to do a better job with connecting with many of our local newspapers, that being the West Indian American, Northern Agent, Inquirer News, just to name a few. These are all local free community papers that many of our business owners, they allow to be on the stands in their stores, and many of the patrons, they look forward to the information that's available there. So you should see more of that being available in some of our local newspapers. But one of the other things is, and we've talked about this in our delegation, is making sure that we host meetings like this, and also, just sharing the information. And a lot of it is by word of mouth, and just sending text message, or calling folks and letting folks know that these opportunities are available. So there's no direct sort of response on it, but to say that we will do a better job communicating, but we will also depend on you, folks who are connected to many of the folks on the grassroots level, and connected to many business owners, Chamber of Commerce, or merchant, organizations. So Phyllis, you would be a great person that we would call to share that information. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Representative Hall did share some information on the extension of those dollars that are still available for small businesses. So I don't know if Matt or Josh have anything to add, but
I would add is, I think all pretty good about getting information once we get the information from governor or DC or whatever feds, we possible. Maybe email updates,
Hey Josh, that I don't know if it's just me, but you sound like your internet is going out. Is it just me, or
No, it's him.
It's that Blue Hills Avenue connection. We can't really hear you.
Because he wore a tie, Brandon. That's
he wore a tie.
He wore a
tie at 9 o'clock at night.
Phyllis, I think I won't speak for Josh, but I would say that we do our best. I mean, clearly with emails and things like that. But I get we're all busy. Always feel free to make that personal call to one of us if you're really, struggling, particularly worried about something, and let us do a deep dive for you. That might be the cleanest way to do it, is say, look, I really need help with X, Y, or Z, and then let us go to work. Okay.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Thank you much. But I could just suggest, though, like if you're there and you're at the state capitol, and that there's something that's going to impact our community in some sort of way, having that database, like I get a lot of emails from you, State Rep Ritter and Joshua Hall. I don't see as much as Brandon, but I do, when something is an issue, he does make a call out and it gets around. But I think having that database of emails and just shooting it out, and then we could just shoot it out as well. That would be helpful.
So let's do this, Phyllis. If you want, just send me your email. I know Beverly receives my information. I'll be sure to add you to it so that you could share that information as well with others. But I send out an email just about weekly on information.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Phyllis.
you.
Nice to hear from you.
State Rep Ritter, a question. I know that you talked about, all the money that has been spent and, we're going to be in a deficit situation. A lot of the grants, whether they be economic development or others, only come out with a 2-year time frame. Do you think that the second year of many of those grants or that funding will be impacted come July when they're up for renewal?
So, great question. The answer is maybe. So under the statutes now, right, we're in the new fiscal year, so we're in July. The governor would normally have the ability to make a 5% rescission to any line item he wanted, except for education funding and a couple other items under that declaration of emergency. I don't think he's going to do that because I think he's agreed with legislative leadership that we should really wait and see what Congress does. But I will tell you, if we get to a position where Congress does not act, I don't have a lot of faith in them, but I have a lot of faith in what folks in Connecticut tell me. They think that we have a shot. But if they don't act and the virus gets worse and we have to re-shut down and it continues to impact revenue levels, yeah, I mean, anything's that, unfortunately, year 2 grants, right, the fiscal year 2021 could be in jeopardy. But having said that, those grants would be subject to legislative oversight. We'd have to agree. So, Brandon, Josh, and I are pretty good at knowing who to fight and where to fight. And a lot of these grants are smaller line items. They're not going to really move the needle too much anyway. But I would say, someone was asking about advocacy earlier. I'm not sure we're going to need it so much on the permit fee, but we may need it next fiscal year during the budget negotiation. So absolutely. So stay tuned. But like I said, we'll know by August or September about whether Congress is going to give money to the states. And if they do not, then it's going to be all hands on deck. It could be a very scary time here in Connecticut.
Okay.
But I'm an optimistic person by nature.
Okay.
So I'm confident we'll get through this thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Shirley, were you going to say something?
Yeah, back to, am I muting? Oh, okay. Phyllis's question about how to stay in touch. One of the things we don't do in our community is, get on emails, newsletter. The governor's office, every time he puts out money, we just put out a couple $1 million for summer youth employment. He just put out $33 million for rental assistance program. We need to get on his email. And so therefore, whenever he has a press release, information is sent to you. So this way you can stay abreast of what the governor's office is putting out as far as monies that are coming down to the cities. So that's my suggestion to the group.
Okay, that's a good one because I'm glad that you mentioned rental assistance. I've been getting a lot of questions on that from landlords per se, how it's going to work. And I did listen and I tried to give them as much as I heard on the television. But however, I just didn't have enough. So if you could maybe send out the email or wherever I can link that information, okay, that would be helpful. Thank you, Shirley.
Yeah.
Okay.
Question. I'm not sure if this is true, but I was told that operating as a cafe, there are restrictions on live entertainment / DJ, etc. There's no guideline that myself or any of the other organization has so far to tell us what we can and cannot do as a cafe. I know we could Google it, but I just like to know if anyone is aware of that you cannot have live DJs or entertainment.
I did follow up on that question with the liquor department, and they wrote back and said that you can have live entertainment with a cafe license.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I did get that information.
We weren't going to restrict that. Come on now.
Just before, I'd just like to say one thing. This group has been meeting for a while now, and it has been very effective. We are going to be operating as we are now for the future. one thing I don't want us to do is break away from what we as a group decided, that we're going to operate under the West Indian Foundation. So I'm going to ask that the information that we're seeking goes through Ms. Haldane and the organization, so that we can have a unison in it. I don't want us to be scattering out with the information. So please, let us make sure that we continue the way we suggested, or we agreed that we were going to do these meetings, because this is not going to stop. This is something that we have decided that we're going to do going forward as different organizations.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Attorney Shulman?
Yes, I just wanted to make a point that everybody should check the specific differences between a cafe license and a club license. There are significant differences in terms of when you can open, when you can close, who can come in, who can't come in. And I do recommend strongly that everybody check those differences, so you'll understand what it will mean to have a cafe license as opposed to a club license. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I do have one when you get a couple of questions when you get a chance. Fred Levy, permittee.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. This one would be for all the government officials. Mr. Ritter, probably mostly. Are all the organizations, taverns, cafes required to have a liquor permittee with this Public Act 1924? That's one question.
Yeah, I do not know off the top of my head. I think, and you know, we're Sid. Sid may know. I mean, I think if you're going to sell liquor, you do. But again, feel free to email me any specific questions. I'm sorry, I don't want to give you the wrong answer. It's serious business. I understand that. But I think if you're serving liquor, you do. It's my guess.
And with continue on a little bit with what Attorney Shulman was saying, but my question is, will, like, this is more, I guess, to the Liquor Commission, and for us to maybe ask the Liquor Commission, will they be sending out any liquor permittee guidelines to the individual organizations? Because I'm not seeing much on the site, as well as it's still vague understanding of this Public Act.
I know they sent out notice a lot later than people had hoped. That's what prompted a lot of these conversations. So I will check with them, but I think to expedite your frustration, feel free to email me any specific questions and we will get them answered by Consumer Protection, okay?
Okay. And
no problem.
Yep.
I'm just going to suggest that if people want to put their questions in the chat right now, we will take them, so that one letter goes to State Rep Ritter. If people would like to do that, then that way we would be able to get everything to him at one time. We have 4 minutes left, and I'm going to ask one last question, or just make a comment and see what the feedback is. This is an election year, and we're also doing the census. In Hartford, only 40% of the residents currently have responded to the census. I'm asking our local guys their thoughts on how we can get those numbers improved, and if they have anything in mind that they will be doing to try to increase the count, as it will impact us directly. Joshua, okay.
Yeah, Josh, you still frozen there, or are you back?
I think go ahead, Josh. Go ahead, Josh.
I think I may be back, and I think this goes back to maybe the question that I think it was OG asked with regard to how do we utilize our social clubs and nonprofits more, and I think this may be a way that can happen where the social clubs are in our underserved communities, and those are the areas that haven't demonstrated their ability to or haven't filled out their census information. And so I think there may be some synergy there with regard to how do we coordinate our efforts with our social clubs to really get out that that message about everybody should be filling out their census forms. And so I think that maybe that's a conversation for another day of how we can coordinate and collaborate with regard to that. But I'll let Brandon add some.
Yeah, no, I'll underscore, excuse me, exactly what you just recommended, Josh. Leveraging the networks and the existing networks that the social clubs and all of the clubs throughout the city manage and do a great job with. I would even add, though, this right now we're down to the wire, and that is we need to really encourage our faith community, whether it's a church, a mosque, a cathedral, whatever. Make sure that folks understand the importance of participating in the census, and don't make it all spooky and complicated. The fact of the matter is we need as many people in Hartford, the greater Hartford area, to participate so that we can get the accurate amount of funding for education, our roads, etc. And, you know, you all will agree, folks don't believe in government right now with number 45 in the seat. There is a lot of spooky stuff going on, if I could just describe it that way. But just to give you an update on some of the efforts that the Black and Puerto Rican Caucus, also in partnership with Matt Ritter, what we've done, and that is we've partnered with the Secretary of State, we've partnered with Lieutenant Governor to really maximize the resources that they have available to help promote the census. So in the coming days, you'll see more advertisement in our local paper. You'll see that we have toolkits that will include sort of pre-drafted emails that those of you who have access to large listservs can share with your folks, and just make it easy to share that information. So, and then we got the immigrant community, right? A lot of folks are like, hey, I don't want to be a part of that. I don't need nobody in my business. But the reality is, it doesn't matter where you're from. It's everyone who is here on the mainland. They should participate in the census. And we have to get that message out. And folks are only going to trust influencers, right? And you all on this call are influencers, folks in your own neighborhoods. And folks will hear you and they'll understand the importance of it if you share with them the importance of completing the census. So I'll share that toolkit as soon as it's made available to me from the governor's office so that you all could share with your respective networks.
Thank you. It's 9:01. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Is there one burning question that we have to have answered? Okay, thank you. I'd like to
What a heck
thank.
of a meeting. We could use you at the Capitol.
Right. I watched that time, but
for hours up there.
I do want to thank everyone that joined us, the members of the West Indian community and the members of the other clubs that joined us. We really appreciate you taking the time to come out and have this discussion with us. I'd like to thank our elected politicians, Joshua Hall, Brandon McGee, Shirley Surgeon, thank you so much. And State Rep Matt Ritter, thank you so much for working the issues with us, getting us prompt responses, and we hope to keep in touch and maybe have a discussion maybe quarterly or semi-annually, but appreciate it. So I thank everyone, and please, I'm going to keep the line open for a bit if people want to put their questions in the chat or other information that they might have forgotten about, and we will make sure it's forwarded and get a response. So thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Take care.
Bye.
Have a good evening.
Yep.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.